I'm Joe Parsons with a special election results report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. The 2025 Virginia gubernatorial election will go down as an historic day in the Commonwealth, as this election decided Virginia's first female governor. The candidates, Winsome Earl Sears and Abigail Spanberger, have similar views on quality education and removing Virginia's vehicle tax, but have vast contradictory opinions on many other topics, and one of those was cannabis reform. The Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earl Sears, has shared in Governor Glenn Youngkin's view that except for a highly regulated medical market, cannabis for adult use is bad for Virginia and is nothing more than a dangerous gateway drug. She backed Youngkin on the vetoes of an adult use program that would have created thousands of new jobs, created tens of millions in new revenue, and would have helped keep cannabis behind a safe, regulated, and most importantly, an age-verified counter. Those vetoes including a parental rights bill that would have protected parents from losing custody or visitation for simple cannabis use, and the resentencing bill that would have allowed simple cannabis-only convictions to be reviewed and possibly overturned. Her opponent, Abigail Spanberger, has been open to opening the adult use market to bring much-needed revenue and jobs to the Commonwealth. She's also signaled support for both the parental rights bill and the resentencing bill. The election has been in the national spotlight and has drawn much controversy. Well, Election Day was yesterday, and we have a winner to announce. And the new governor of Virginia will be Abigail Spanberger. She held a decisive lead and was endorsed by former President Barack Obama, the NAACP, and even many conservatives. I would like to congratulate her in her victory and would like to send her an honest and heartfelt invitation to be open to discussions about the future of cannabis in Virginia. I also hope that she acts with haste to restore the will of the people and signs these bills into law. These bills will build a safe, regulated, and of course, behind an age-verified counter, and will help erode the dangerous legacy market that has kept the Commonwealth in the past. I also hope that she will continue to work with her partners across the aisles to keep this momentum going, because as I always say, it takes red and blue to equal green in the Commonwealth. The future of adult use, parental rights, and correcting the mistake on the failed war on drugs depends on the actions of our new leader. So good luck, and stay tuned to updates on how the new governor works to keep Virginia moving forward in cannabis reform and justice. Well, that's all for this special report. I'm Joe Parsons reporting with WPCM-TV's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Until next time, stay lifted.
Welcome back to the C Block, or the final section of Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Elena Pinto. There are two New England states that are both trying to make changes to their existing cannabis laws. The state of New Hampshire just won't give up trying to change their existing minimal medicinal program. And this week, a House committee passed an adult use law, but it is already being targeted by the Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte and the Republican Senate, where they have made it clear that will never happen in the so-called live free or die state. Right next door is the state of Maine, where a petition has been filed to roll back the adult use legalization market, including a ban on home grow. Maine has always supported the small craft grower and kept big MSOs out of that state. The same prohibitionists who tried to stop the legalization of the plant medicine a few years ago in Maine are resurrecting the fight to undo the will of the people. So cannabis continues to be the pawn fueling a divide between the two political parties. Neither initiative is expected to pass, but advocates are starting to see a pattern of elected officials working to reverse the progress of ending prohibition. Well, now let's hear from our resident grower in Illinois. Here's Mark Allen, the Chicago Clone Guy.
What's up, everybody? Chicago Clone Guy here, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Always lots of stuff going on here in the Chicagoland area and my facility. We're going to do a little overview for you of what I've been doing for the past week. Some of the few things here. One of the many things I did this week was set up and purchase this 4-tier clone rack, as you see, this blue and orange clone rack. There's going to be over 4,000 clones on that rack when it's all said and done. Next thing you're going to see right here is my first row of lights plus a partial second row of lights. Those I connected all together, installed, powered up, and are ready to go for the transplant that will be coming up soon. There's a new Senate bill introduced that amends the Industrial Hemp Act that pretty much would say that any cannabinoid hemp product that's being sold cannot be mixed with caffeine, simply put. So a hemp drink or hemp products, you just can't mix it with caffeine. That's what they want to do. Other proposals against hemp, I'm going to say the war against drugs. They want to put an age limit on hemp, which I guess I'm not really intoxicating hemp, which is 21 or over. So they want to make the age 21 or over to buy intoxicating hemp products, which I guess I'm not too upset about. But then they want to add to that a $2 tax per item per hemp product. So you got to be 21, and then they want to put a $2 tax on it. What else do they do that with in the state? You know what I mean? Products. It's insane, but that's what they're trying to amend it to do. That's okay. That is what it is here. Oh, more news, legislative proposals that they also talked this year about. Right now in Illinois, you can grow 5 plants if you have a medical card holder. They're talking about increasing that to 12 plants. So that's still on the table. We'll see what happens. But anyways, that sums up the news for Chicagoland area. I'm Mark Allen, the Chicago Clone Guy, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Thanks for tuning in.
There are plenty of states like West Virginia who are sitting on millions of dollars in collected taxes from their cannabis sales and doing nothing with it. It even took states like Massachusetts a few years to figure out what to do with the tax money, but then there are states like Maryland who are using those funds to train the workforce. Here's Christopher Bright with the details of that program in his state.
I'm Christopher Bright from The Enlightened Voice. Welcome to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'll be bringing you the latest cannabis headlines from Maryland. Maryland's Department of Labor is boosting cannabis workforce with new funding through its EARN program. The grant trains unemployed and underemployed Marylanders for high-demand jobs across the state's cannabis industry, cultivation, processing, and dispensary operations. The program boosts a 94% job placement rate. Founder and CEO Dr. Kathleen Kennedy says the money ensures continued training for better paying careers. Starting in 2026, Canna Workforce will launch specialized courses for cannabis lab technicians, meeting the surge in the need for testing and quality assurance experts. Kennedy, a biotech workforce specialist, started in the organization in 2023 alongside Roth, CEO of Cannabis MD. The two met in the University of Maryland's Medical Cannabis Graduate Program, where Colleen Roth now teaches. Colleen Roth, Vice President of Education, says the training transforms lives, building confidence and opening paths to become economic stability. The funding will fuel expanded outreach and enrollment in 2026, prioritizing equitable access to Maryland's regulated cannabis market. And now we have our content creator of the week. I would like to shine a spotlight on Chef Sticks, the 5-time award-winning cannabis chef infusing your world with bold, elevated flavors. From triumphant CBD cook-off dishes to bespoken private dinners via his Cooking Genie, he blends the culinary artistry with cannabis creativity for meals that spark your joy. Dive into his captivating Instagram post at Chef Sticks, where every bite he asks, "Did you eat yet?" And that's all for this week's of Maryland Cannabis Report. I'm Christopher Bright, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
Here's a pop quiz for you. Do you know the definition of the phrase California sober? Basically, it means giving up alcohol and using cannabis for your intoxicating activities. And now that movement is taking hold in Colorado. There is a bit of a twist, though, because the movement does include another plant medicine. It's psilocybin. The group behind the movement is a nonprofit called MS Terrios Miracles, whose motto is everything in moderation, including moderation. Denver resident Marissa Poppins is the executive director of the 9-year-old organization, and she calls herself Colorado Sober since she uses cannabis and a microdose of psilocybin to manage her chronic pain caused by her MS. Here's a quote. "Weed and mushrooms have a lot less next-day negative effects than alcohol. I'm new to the term, but I think people are starting to realize what it means on their own. It's a version of a natural high," unquote. Next up, a familiar story in all cannabis markets, the mislabeling of test results. This time it's in Colorado, and Jenny Germano has more from her state.
I am Jenny Germano with ICS Consulting. This is the Colorado Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. In Colorado, a recent study is raising new concerns about how accurately cannabis products are being labeled. Researchers from the Institute of Cannabis Research and MedPharm Research carried out what they say is the first large-scale review of cannabis flower and concentrate products sold across the state. Their team purchased 277 items from 52 dispensaries in 19 counties, including 178 flower samples and 99 concentrates. On average, flower tested around 21% THC, while concentrates came in higher, averaging about 71%, with some exceeding 80%. Here's the big finding: nearly half of the flower products did not meet Colorado's requirement that THC potency be within 15% of what's printed on the label. Concentrates, however, were far more consistent, with only a few showing significant mismatches. Why is this important for consumers and especially for medical patients? We have inaccurate THC labels, which can lead to taking more or less than intended. The researchers noted that flower is naturally harder to test because it varies by bud, while concentrates are more uniform and easier to measure. The researchers are calling for improved testing standards and greater transparency in product labeling. They also plan to expand their work to include edibles, aiming to help regulators, producers, and consumers build more trust in our state, Colorado. For the cannabis industry and consumers, these findings underscore the importance of trusting your source and understanding that labeling may not always match reality. And this will be really interesting to see how this is going to turn out. With the Colorado Marijuana Enforcement Division is doing some independent testing for the next 30 days across the state of Colorado, and they're pulling samples from the shelf. I reported on this a couple weeks ago and how everything is going to line up with what the state of Colorado is doing for their own independent testing that they're teaming up with the Colorado Department of Health and Environment. Stay tuned. I'm going to be following this story and tracking this. I am Jenny Germano with ICS Consulting, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
In Minnesota, the nation's newest legal adult use state is slowing opening up. A handful of the indigenous tribes in that state have been the first to open for the adult use business. Access to the legal tested products has been slow because of the lack of product grown in the state in advance of opening day. Needless to say, it has caused some frustration for those who have worked so hard to get started. Alicia Bellamy has more from her state.
I'm Alicia Bellamy for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is your Minnesota report and your Halloween report. I'm here at Lucky Strange with Bear and Philly. They are the first non-tribal cannabis dispensary in the Twin Cities. Today we would like to talk a little bit about what would you have changed in opening your dispensary.
Well, I think for licensing, what we would have changed is the way that the rollout happened. We strongly believe that growers, manufacturers, distributing companies, transportation, delivery services should have been licensed first, and we should have had a maintainable amount of flower to go out to people rather than flooding the market with a whole bunch of retail licenses and everyone feeling the effect from that. I feel like the rollout happened incorrect.
And what have you had to do to pivot from the difficult rollout?
The pivot. Well, we have been just kind of overcoming the obstacle with the current shop and the current loyal customers that we have. It's amazing that we have been able to keep going and keep, effective hemp products in the store, that the customers keep coming back, and we grow a little bit each time, but it's getting to the breaking point of not being able to get the products everyone looks for.
And that is the state of Minnesota. This is Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Alicia Bellamy.
Usually we leave you with a light story to end the news show, but in this case, we are going to show you another video that a government organization is running in traditional media. Even though no tax dollars were used to produce this video, it comes during the week that the president ordered boats destroyed that were supposedly carrying fentanyl, a really dangerous drug, off the West Coast. Now the DEA is releasing a scary public service announcement warning of using cannabis from illegal sources in the legacy market. Prohibitionists are trying to continue the trend that cannabis can be laced with fentanyl. Perhaps the most disturbing part of this video is that people under the legal age of 21 are being used to drill home the message.
Best birthday party ever! Well, except for the weed. Turns out, it was laced with fentanyl. And a birthday I'll never forget, because it was my last.
Patient is a cardiac arrest.
Just one mistake, and you're out of the game. Forever.
Taking fentanyl is like playing Russian roulette. Just a few grains can kill you.
I had to pull an all-nighter. So I took the pill my roommate gave me. I swore it'd be the last time. It was.
I was immediately addicted to fentanyl, exactly like the drug dealers wanted. My skin turned blue, I aged rapidly, my organs painfully deteriorated. Then I died, alone.
Fentanyl kills.
Join President Trump's fight to end the fentanyl crisis.
It's just another reason why the plant should be tested and controlled as a substance, not just for the purity of the substance itself, but for the bad human actors out there who want to take advantage of the lack of education and lace it with stuff that is scary and could kill you. And that's why we end every program with the same line. It's a whole new world of weed out there. Consume it responsibly. And now we add, only use tested cannabis from licensed stores. That'll do it for Cannabis Coast to Coast this week. I'm Elena Pinto, and we'll see you next time.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Pro Cannabis Media is now WPCM TV, your go-to website for things cannabis. WPCM TV is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news you need.
Amy Carter. This week, she reports from inside the State House in Lansing.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters with this week's Michigan Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
And talk shows about all things cannabis.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing to get the word out. Like, this show is so important.
It all started back in 2018 when Emmy award-winning talk show host Jimmy Young kicked it off with the In the Weeds podcast.
That it's not just any generic paper towel. You do have a brand that you use, right?
Yeah, we live or die by the bounty. I mean,
the quicker picker-upper. I love that.
His mission? Building an army of multimedia journalists and podcast hosts who are documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. Fast forward to today, and we've got the nation's only weekly cannabis coast-to-coast news program with Elena Pinto.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News, WPCM TV's weekly production of the fight to end cannabis prohibition in this country and around the world. I'm Elena Pinto.
Delivering the nation's only TV news-style program. Since June 2021, WPCM TV has racked up over 1.3 million views, with 17 million impressions, and picked up over 16,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. For more information, contact the team at WPCMTV.com.